All right, so I'm going to give you an example from Khan Academy so that you will be able to do the problem set factoring quadratics 2. The goal is that you're able to get 5 in a row on factoring quadratics 2. Here is an example from that set. Now, as we look at this example, you notice that this first term is not x squared, it's x cubed. And you also know that the number in front of x, the leading coefficient in front of the x cubed is not a 1. Okay? So I've got x cubed, then x squared, then an x. Now, as we look at this problem, we notice that every number, the 2, the 10, and the 28, are all divisible by 2. And then we also notice that every term has at least an x. And so the first step is to factor out our greatest common factor. So since 2 goes into everything, I'm going to factor out a 2. And since they all have an x, I'm going to factor out an x. Now, when I do that, remember what we talked about. If you are factoring a trinomial and you factor out a term, then there should be a remaining trinomial inside the parentheses. So I factored 2x out, which means I basically divided each term by 2x. When you factor something out, you're basically dividing each term by that. So in this first term, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and x cubed divided by x is just x squared. Now here I've got negative 10 divided by 2, which is negative 5, and x squared divided by x is just x. And here I have negative 28 divided by 2, which is negative 14, and x divided by x cancels out. So now the problem at this point looks like what we're used to, a regular quadratic expression. X squared, and then x, and then no variable. Okay? And we talked about whenever something's in the form of x squared, and then x, and then no variable, if it factors, it normally factors into 2 binomials. This 2x will just come down with it. So I'll put 2x times, and I'll put 2 binomials. And now our goal is to simply factor what's inside the parentheses. We'll ignore what's outside the parentheses for now and attempt to factor what is inside the parentheses. Now remember, at any point in this video, if you become confused, you can pause it and rewind. Okay, so I've moved the problem up to give us some space down below. And so let's factor what's inside this parentheses right here. Okay, now what times what equals x squared? Well, x times x equals x squared. Remember the first term in each binomial, the first term in this binomial and the first term in this binomial, when you multiply the first term in each one, has to give you the first term in the trinomial. Now I'm going to list the factors of 14. 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. Those are the only factors. Now we need one of them that adds or subtracts to give us negative 5. Well, 14 plus 1 and 14 minus 1 will not give us 5. But now 7 minus 2 will. So I'm going to put 7 and 2 in here. Now let's review. X times x will give me x squared. 2 times 7 will give me 14. Now we need to know what signs go inside each binomial. Remember, if this sign right here is a positive, that tells us that the 2 signs in the binomials will be the same. But this is not the case, is it? In this case, the sign is negative. Now that negative doesn't tell us that both the signs here will be negative. This negative tells us that these 2 signs will be different. Okay? And so I've got to decide which one will be positive and which one will be negative. But my result must be a negative 5. So let's say I made the 7 negative and the 2 positive. Negative 7 plus 2 would give me negative 5, which is what I'm looking for. If I were to have made the 7 positive and the 2 negative, I would have gotten a positive 5. But you can see right here, I needed a negative 5, not a positive 5. And so this is going to be what I need, a negative 7 and a positive 2. So I'll make my 7 negative and my 2 positive. Okay? Now, let's review. X times x does equal x squared. Okay? Positive 2 and negative 7 does equal negative 14. And then negative 7 plus 2 does equal negative 5. So I'm done. I have completely factored. Now, if you wanted to check your answer, what you would do is you would multiply these two binomials by foiling, and then you would distribute the 2x. But to be clear, 2x, parentheses, x plus 2, close the parentheses, and open another one, x minus 7, and close it. This right here is the answer to the original question. If you enter this in Khan Academy, you will get the right answer.